Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern to talk about podcasting, which is always interesting. How are you today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, FiST Chat fans. Yes, this is a great day for a podcast and we've got plenty to chat about that.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, don't forget our website, FiSTchat.com. You can get all of our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, SoundCloud and our RSS feeds and our videos on YouTube, Vimeo and Digicosm TV. We've got Twitter, Google Plus and Facebook that you can interact with us, so feel free to do so and we'll get back to you. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, only 99 cents on Amazon. Decent read, we think, and helps to support this show. And we've also got our supplementary content, the weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And if you think anyone's interested in our weekly discussions on film, science and technology, feel free to send them to our website and you'll see all of our content there. Now, we're going to do something a little different this week, and it was largely, it's come up a couple of times, and we just want to have a bit of a reflection on podcasting in general and also what we are doing here at FiST Chat. And I think we have sort of mentioned this before, Steve, that, FiST Chat is an extension of our own conversations, so to speak. Even though... it's sort of a formalized structure that we've got going now. And we've kind of got it down pat where we have to kind of sort of structure it in a way where we have to get it done within 15 to 20 minutes and get all the points out that we want to make, all the comments, highlight stories and whatnot, which is not an easy thing to do because, condensing something like that down is hard. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be any different than us, being out somewhere, having a coffee or a drink or something and just having a general chit chat. It's just more formalized. So it's interesting in that sense. And I think also it's important to note that we're enthusiasts in the fields that we're talking about, the film, science and technology. In some cases, we have actual practical experience in some of those fields too, but we're not necessarily experts. So what do you think about all of that, Steve?
Oh, well, I agree with you if that's what you're asking. But you're absolutely right. There's more than enough experts on the internet. And if you want an expert, you can go and Google them. We are enthusiasts and we talk about topics from our own experience because we love technology. We love what technology is able to do for us. And that's what we talk about. Mm-hmm. And if you find yourself arguing with us while you're watching an episode of FiST Chat, I suggest you calm down because, your opinion is just as valid as ours is.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, I guess, one of the reasons for sort of covering this is that we discussed last week the story on Control-Alt-Delete.
Dangerous ground, Ben.
Yeah, and it's happened a couple of times before that when we have raised a tech topic that, might be a bit contentious, might stir up a bit of, feelings for anyone that's a fan of that particular technology that we can get some very fiery kind of responses. Now, we don't obviously mind that if it's sort of an informed, intelligent kind of comment, but sometimes it can be a little vitriolic. And for me, I think we can categorically say that we won't respond to that sort of thing if it's unless it's informed and intelligent. If you're going to just slag us off, for example, then we're not going to respond to it because there's no place for that. But it is interesting that this sort of thing sort of pops up. And I don't know, what do you think, Steve? Is that, I can't see any way around that. I mean, we're sort of having a public dialogue every week when we get on, and obviously it's good to sort of engage in debate, and if some people have other opinions, that's great, but you've got to know when to toe the line as to what's appropriate.
True, but I mean, Ben, I never really considered you a sort of talk-back shock jock until now.
Unless we change the direction of this show, we might get a different level of hits in the future.
Well, we could turn it into a online version of Springer or something like that. But it is very interesting, particularly when it comes to people's opinions. And people, have a particular opinion and it goes against what somebody might say, and some people feel very defensive about it. I mean, personally, I don't feel that strongly about anything I read or see on the internet to care that much. But it's interesting. It is a basis for discussion, and as we were talking earlier, it's a shame when you get a vitriolic sort of commentary, because the actual fact is that certainly we do. We take on board what's said because it's usually quite interesting. It's another perspective on the technology around us, and it is actually I find it fascinating that for instance, what I might find painful or ridiculous way to go, and I feel a bit that way when it comes to Android. With the way some of the Android products work and the interfaces work, I think it's just a waste of time in the modern age that they could produce apps that are that poor. And yet, for some people, Android apps that don't work properly are the best thing that they've ever seen. So, I just go figure. I mean, it's good to know that people out there happy, maybe to wind back the clock and go to Windows 95 or something.
Yeah, and of course, just quickly on the Control-Alt-Delete side of things, seemed like there was a lot of people upset that we would dare call that a tech fail, even though there was half the media running stories along those lines for that time.
And it was funny because, that was, sort of, I guess, how the media was running the line, and we went along with that. But, by the end of the week, by the time I wrote my blog, I actually quite realised I quite love Control-Alt-Delete, and I think it's okay. And if anyone was to read my blog, you'll see 5 software disasters that you can have a big argument with me about. But I think
Exactly. Just a couple of other things. It's easy to we've got a platform that we have established, and obviously when we started it was quite rough around the edges, but having done it for over 2.5 years now, we've kind of got the process down pat, and it's a lot more structured and better put together. And it could be easy to misinterpret it because we're putting it in a public forum that somehow we do have that expert knowledge, or that we we know everything or whatever. We don't know everything. Like I said, we're enthusiasts. We're interested in these. This is what we think about, and you can agree or disagree. Yeah. But it's interesting that it's a little bit like the way movie critics are, that just because they have their words written down, their opinions written down and published in newspapers or online, and people can read them, that somehow their opinion is more valid than someone who just walked out of a cinema on a Saturday night having watched the latest Hollywood blockbuster. It's not necessarily the case.
Well, that's right. In popular culture, though, films and books especially, everyone's an expert. And that was always the way, I think, since year dot. However, on the internet now, everyone's got a voice and everyone's opinion's equal, even if it isn't. I guess so. What we do is we talk about stuff that we use and we know about, even if we're not expert. We know how it works, we use it, and I guess we give our appraisal. But, I'm happy for anyone to have a counter opinion because, as I say, I find that interesting. But I still don't think that necessarily makes anyone who can give a commentary an expert. And as I said, there are plenty of those on the internet. You can Google them.
Okay, well, short of becoming the latest shock jock show,
say something controversial, Ben.
Oh, I'll have to think about it a little bit. Maybe we'll do it after the news bites
Apple
or something.
There you go, fanboys.
Exactly. We'll still continue, obviously, to have our discussions on film science and technology, any topics that relate to that. We are actually going to be working on a sort of behind-the-scenes documentary about how we put the show together. That probably won't come out till next year, I'd say, like as a series, but that'll probably give more insight as to how we go about, finding topics, why we talk about them, what started the whole thing in the beginning. So look out for that. That'll be coming out soon. As I should also mention, we'll be having a new ebook, obviously, the next edition of the FiST report, because we'll have a year's worth of blogs done in the next few months. So that should be coming out early next year. So there's a whole bunch of these sorts of things that you can check out that will help to expand out what we do every week, just beyond what you see in the videos that we produce. All right, we might move on now to our news bite. So we'll stop talking about ourselves and talk about a few news bits and pieces in film, science, and tech. Our film news bite from the Sydney Morning Herald: Eric Bana and the great film distribution shake-up. Now, what he's basically been doing is he had a couple of films that and documentaries, by the look of it, that he was personally promoting and going around Australia, getting them screened around the place with a couple of his film industry mates. And he was, I guess, to be commended in the sense that, he had that line at the end where he said it's really easy to throw your hands up in the air and say the state of cinema is, it's crap, and, blockbusters are so, soulless and whatnot. But he then said, I think it's important to, where you can, to roll your sleeves up and actually try and do something and get it out there for people to see, even if it only gets shown on 10 screens for 2 weeks. As long as you can get that work out there, and it is possible to do that in this day and age. With the technology that's available. Now, it obviously helps that with the profile that he's got, that he can get a certain level of media interest into it, but it's still a good point to make, I think, that, you can go out and make a connection with people, especially with social media providing a forum for you to connect with those people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, he's made a really good point. If you really are into the craft of filmmaking, then it doesn't really matter how many people get to see it. Work hard and get as many people to see it as possible, and that's a really good sentiment, I think, on his behalf there. I think we're seeing a further consolidation in the world of cinema because, of course, on-demand viewing of any sort of title online now is probably one way of really cornering the market. And I think if you fall into the sort of traditional film that might go to a traditional style of cinema, if you don't have the big backing, I just don't think you can win anymore. But, you can give it a go, and that's not to say that, occasionally somebody won't come up trumps, but, it would be very tough, especially for someone like him who's been in the industry a long time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, our science news bite from The Verge. Higgs boson scientists awarded Nobel Prize in Physics. Not really surprising. We spoke about the Higgs boson particle a few times last year, and Dr. Higgs and Francois Englert they've been awarded the Nobel Prize, and it's probably that's a hell of an award to get after. How long ago was it that it was all postulated?
63, I think.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably
I got that year wrong. It was the 1960s. Maybe it was 66. I don't know.
It's long overdue, considering the importance of the achievement.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's it's huge. But I think what a lot of people don't realise is that very often scientists don't receive Nobel Prizes until 20 years after their discovery. So it happens quite frequently in Australia. I think Brian Schmidt, who received the Nobel Prize in 2011 for discovering that the universe was expanding faster than we'd thought. His work was done in the late 90s, so that was about 14 or 15 years. So that's quite frequent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's great. I mean, what a story. He's had a bit of a hypothesis, written to a friend saying, I think this might work, but it's a ridiculous idea. And 50 years on, they've built the world's biggest machine to find what he said we would find.
And
Unbelievable.
And they found it. So it's a good story.
It is a good story.
And just finally, our tech news bite. This is from the Win Super site. Paul Thurrott, who runs that particular website, is a Windows sort of guy who follows a lot of the news, and he postulated an opinion piece. When will then be now for the post-PC era? And I thought this was interesting in the sense that, Steve Jobs coined the phrase post-PC quite predominantly when the iPad 2 came out.
Yeah.
And that was probably, there's a bit of self-interest there, considering that the majority of Apple's business is post-PC devices in the sense of iPads and iPhones. But the PC market is still a significant market, but it isn't the be all and end all anymore. And that if you count in tablets and smartphones and PCs together, then PCs only, from what Paul was saying, was only a fifth of the market. And considering Windows, was the dominant platform and accounted for 90% of all installs at one point. That's a significant shrinkage, but I don't think we're still at that point where it's post-PC. I think, for me, post-PC means that I could pick up a tablet and start being productive on it. And you can, to a degree, be productive on it.
Controversial, Ben. More vitriol heading your way.
Yeah, but I don't think, until that they show a tablet that can do that, then as far as I'm concerned, we're not really in the post-PC world.
Okay, I kind of agree with you, but I think we are very close to it right now.
Yeah.
And my assessment is that what held that 90% market share for Microsoft and PCs was business.
Yeah.
So everyone would buy whatever sort of machine they bought for home, and they bought the same sort of boxes that was at work. It was just connected differently.
Yeah.
What's happening now is consumers are driving the whole industry. So consumers say they want tablets. Consumers don't really, even want laptops as much as they used to. They want tablets now. They want phones, and they can be, in a work sense, unless you're a creative, you can be productive on them. And now they're forcing work to include all of these devices as part of your Office suite. And I mean, really, I'm not sure that I need a desktop PC anymore.
Yeah, that's probably a fair point.
At work, sorry everyone. Not at home, I still probably do, but at work, I probably could get away with a networked tablet.
But I would think, but for it to take place across, across the entire PC world, it's still probably at least a couple of years away before we can truly say that we're there.
I agree with you on that, but I think we're actually entering the genuine post-PC phase. I mean, we'll probably talk more about this in a later episode. We suggested this beforehand, but I think now we're, with the S4 and the iPhone 5S, you're starting to move into a realm, and with the latest generation of tablets, you're moving into a realm where that creativity or productivity on a tablet, on a smaller device, is starting to get it closer. But you're probably right, a couple of years, Ben, but we're moving into it now for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Anytime, Ben. Thanks for the chat, FiST Chat fans, and you can maintain the chat on Twitter or Facebook or any of those other places Ben suggests.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode, so we'll catch you next time.